What is up, my friends? Brandon Osborne here, aka Control for Days. We are back for another Modern League match here in Dr. Yawgmoth's clinic with the deck Black-Green Yawgmoth. The list we're running today, main deck is kind of what I'm settling in on. 3 Wall of Roots, 1 Innkeeper, back on Scavenging Ooze to optimize my utilization of sideboard slots. And the sideboard is experimental as of right now. 2 Chalice of the Void, 2 Phyrexian Crusader, a Setessan Petitioner, which is my first time running that instead of a Beowulf. So we're going to see how it goes. Chances are you know what I'm playing against already. I do not know what I'm playing against. We're going to find out, and we're going to walk through together how to win the match, hopefully. We are on the draw. Sorry, it took me a second to figure that out. Opening 7. I'm not in love with the fact that my only green source is a peatland. So I'm relying really heavy on these mana dorks given the fact that the other cards in my hand are double green. So while I think this is a keep, I think this is not a great keep. So especially if they're running something like Murktide or Burn or something like that, this hand is not going to be very good. They're on a 5-card hand currently, so anytime someone mulligans down that low, they're very unlucky, or they're playing Tron. That's always what you think. Alright, and they leave with a Triumph. Oh, I didn't see. We have a Kahira. That would have been useful to know about. Okay, so they're playing some form of Ella. They could be playing blue-white control, but they could also be playing elementals. So those are our 2 suspects currently. Twilight Mirror is actually not a bad draw. That will help fix our mana a little bit. We're going to lead on to Birds of Paradise. It's our worst mana dork. So we're going to start with that just in case they have a Renin 6. Alright, so the fact they played a Steam Vents, we're leaning towards like an Elementals type deck as opposed to blue-white control, because blue-white control doesn't play Steam Vents. Alright, so we already have to put our thinking caps on. They play Fury in their deck. We're assuming they're playing Fury in their deck. They mulligan to 5. Them being able to Fury down a Hierarch, a Geist, and a Birds of Paradise, the amount of card advantage they can generate off of that is pretty significant. At the same time, it doesn't really change what we're doing on our side of the board. Basically just killing 2 of our dorks. So if that's what they're going to do, given the way our hand lines up, I think we're going to do that. Normally, I probably wouldn't play into that though. But I think we need to get a move on just so they don't have too much of an opportunity to set up what they're trying to do. So their best card is probably Risen Reef, because that will get them back into the game from a card advantage standpoint. And they just put Kahira into their hand. And they play their Fury. Okay. So as long as they're not ephemerating that, I'm okay with it. And we kind of talked about it. That's what we were anticipating happening. So that's fine. Alright, so I think we're swinging for 3. I think we're playing Endurance, EOT. Play out our Twilight Mirror. Play out the Endurance, and then the following turn, we'll play out the Geist and hit for 8. Okay, they're stuck on mana. We know they have a Kahira in hand. This deck, you know, this was like the really popular version of Elementals probably 3 or 4 months ago. And then the metagame has actually shifted in the direction of Yorion Elementals. Or it did shift in that direction. But now it feels like it's starting to shift back a little bit, back towards this deck in particular. Sorry, I'm just thinking about my play here. So I actually don't need to play out the Misty Rainforest to have the 4 green necessary. So we're going to play Geist, and just start bringing the beasts. I think they're F6, so they're going to get hit for a lot of damage here. 7, 10. They're down to 4. So at this point, I think they need like Solitude Ephemerate, which appears they do not have. So we snuck game 1. Usually this match is not that easy. I think their draw was pretty bad. They stalled on lands, obviously. Their mana was kind of messy. And additionally, they mulliganed to 5. So I think we got lucky there. In this matchup, we're going to bring in our Thoughtseizes. We're going to get to play our Crusaders. Let's see if they actually do anything here. In addition to that, is there anything else we really want? I mean, there's always a consideration for this sort of matchup to bring in Necromentia to nab Ephemerates, to nab Furies, to nab Solitudes. I'm going to put those in the maybe pile for now. On the play, I feel like they'd probably be better. On the draw, I'm not sure that's what we want. I haven't ruled it out, but it's a maybe. Okay. What are we cutting? I think we're shaving on 1 mana dorks. They're just such low-hanging fruit. They're so easy for our opponent to pick off with their removal. It's not really, they're not really great. I think we're also cutting a Yawgmoth for similar reasons. Like Geist is nice because it can hit their planeswalkers, but Yawgmoth, it just doesn't line up well against what they're doing. Lastly, so the cards I'm thinking about, Endurance Evo. Endurance, it just puts a clock on them, so I kind of like that. Just because the removal is so efficient, I think I'm cutting an Evolution. I think we're going to go with this. So we're not boarding too much. Keeping it pretty lean. Pretty mean. Okay. I like this 7. I think it's pretty good. Once again, we're going to have some decisions right off the bat. We're going to keep this. I think this hand lines up pretty well against what they're doing. Flagstones of Trocare. Trocare? It's an odd inclusion. Bump this up a little bit. Okay, we drew an Endurance. They kept a 7 card hand. They can't cast Wrenn and 6 on turn 2. So for that reason, I don't think I'm going to Thoughtseize on turn 1. I think I'm just going to play out my Forest Ignoble and then pass the turn. If they had the ability to cast a Wrenn and 6, which I don't actually remember if these lists are playing that or not, because it's been a while since I've played against this a ton, but if that were a possibility, I probably would have Thoughtseized as opposed to casting the Ignoble. Okay, Birds of Paradise is fine. We're going to fetch Shock to clean up our mana a little bit, and then play out our Grist. So try to generate some advantage and just build out a board state. We need another land here, so that's what we're hoping to pull off the top. And then next turn, I'm like, oh, Lotus Field. I was not expecting that. That's why there's a Flagstones, and that's okay. So this is different. This is different than what I was expecting. Okay. There we go. Alright, so this deck is a very interesting matchup. We're going to start with an uptick because we don't really have anything else to do with our Grist. We're going to hit for 2. And then I think we're likely going to Thoughtseize and then leave up Endurance and flash that in. I think that's going to be our line. I like that my Grist is on 5 now because it's out of Fury range, which is nice. Makes me feel more comfortable. Okay, so let's play out our swamp. We drew our land, which is what we wanted for the turn, which is good. Rest in peace. I don't think we have an answer outside of our Besage. I don't think I brought in Liberator. Alright, and they just 2 for 1 themselves with a Force of Negation, which is interesting. That's still in the deck. Let me see my sideboard. Okay, I didn't bring in the Liberator, so I might want to bring that in next game. And it's good to know about the Force of Negations for Eldritch Evolution, so I might be shaving more evolutions. Let's see what they do here. Like, they might have a Teferi. Okay, there's a Fury. Fury is fine. Cast our Endurance. Obviously, it doesn't do anything with the Rest in Peace in play. Okay, the worst possible situation is if they have an Ephemerate for the Fury. We're definitely swinging into the Fury here, and if they want to block it, that's fine. I don't feel great about the Rest in Peace is pretty big game here, given the texture of our hand. Like if they blink the Fury, being able to nab 2 of our Undying creatures is really, really strong. Or that and our Grist. What did we exile? A Besage. So here if they blink the Fury, I think they 2 the Grist and 2 the Messenger. So I think putting our bird on the battlefield is fine. I don't think it should be too much of an issue unless they like have a double Ephemerate. In which case that would be an issue. Memory Deluge, looking at the top 4, imagine they're looking for Ephemerate. An Ephemerate here, or just the potential for Ephemerate here is a little bit tricky, because ultimately we kind of want to downtick our Grist and kill the Fury, but if we do that, and they do have an Ephemerate, it's just a huge blowout. So I don't think we can put ourselves in that position as much as I want to get this Fury off the battlefield. So unfortunately, I don't think we can take that line. I mean, if they just Ephemerate here and now, I mean, it gives us a ton of information. Let's see what they do. They're thinking, they're considering. Okay, so them attacking also screams Ephemerate. So we'll block like that. They're casting the Ephemerate now. Oh, no Ephemerate. Ooh, this is really good for us. This is really good for us. Okay. Are they just dead? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're close to dead. Alright, so we're gonna start. Start with an attack. they probably have a Solitude as well. So that's what they're thinking about. But the fact that they don't have any mana up and they spent their... Like, I feel like in that situation, like they cast a Prismatic Ending. I feel like just representing Ephemerate is better than Prismatic ending my my Ignoble. Like just representing that, just instilling that fear in me, probably accomplishes more than the ending. At least makes me think about my play a little bit more, assuming that I'm conscious of that it's on my mind, as opposed to, like, I don't know what that accomplished, getting rid of that Ignoble. I don't think it really did anything. Okay, so here we're gonna swing with the team. I mean, it kind of did something because it prevented me from casting this other Geist, but they didn't know that. Alright, so we're dumping this. Getting rid of this fool. And then their best play at this point is probably another Fury. But even then, I don't think that gets the job done. They get rid of... Yeah, we get the win. So, we played against Lotus Field Elementals. They stuttered and stumbled through game one quite a bit. Game two, I mean, they had a 7-card hand. They kept their opener, and they kind of did their thing. Sort of, not really. They didn't really do their thing, but they kept their 7, so that's on them. You know, our hands weren't that strong either. Like, we had a turn 2 Grist, but we never saw a Yawgmoth in 2 games. We never saw a Court of Calling in 2 games. We never cast an Evolution in 2 games. So, like, we didn't actually get what we tried to do online either. So, is this a favorable matchup? Probably not. Is it a winnable matchup? Definitely. And one of the things to note with all of these elemental type decks is that their mana is really, really greedy. This one less so than typical elemental decks, but they stumble a lot. That's like their biggest weakness, is the fact that they're inconsistent with regards to being able to cast their spells on curve. So our deck, being one that kind of gets out of the gate quickly and has haste creatures and has a lot of ways to deal damage quickly, you know, it takes advantage of that. So I think these games were a perfect example of that kind of dynamic, and the fact that, hey, if you're going to be greedy with your mana base, sometimes you get punished. With that being said, I'm checking out for the day. My name is Brandon Osborne, aka Control for Days. I am thankful that you joined me for today's video. If you have not done so already, hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment below, let me know what you thought about this match. Additionally, I have just started putting together a primer, a written primer for Black-Green Yawgmoth. You can find that on my Patreon page, so if you haven't done so already, head over there. It's free, at least the first part of it's free. Some of it I might put behind a paywall depending on, you know, how I'm feeling. I also have completely free, and will continue to be free, a sideboard guide, a condensed sideboard guide, and all of my stats with this deck, so you can click those links in the description below as well. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me them in the comments. I appreciate you joining me. I will catch you next time. Until then.